what's going on? This is SOCMOM and Friends, and we are going to talk about some solo and two-player games while also going over Sarah's trips to some trade shows and even a convention.
Yeah, so I've been on the road for, a while. I just got back last night after having one plane delayed, one flight canceled entirely. So I finally made it home. Yay! So happy to have made it home safely. While I was on the road, I started out running the Tennessee State Championships at Tennessee Game Days, which is a show I absolutely love. It's one I've said before many times. I wish I could just kind of go as an attendee because it just seems like a really fun, casual, laid-back show. So we ran the Tennessee State Championships there, and that went over really well. There's a lot of interest in the tournaments there. I get a lot of participation, which is really nice for me. Then after I left Tennessee Game Days, I went to Toy Fest West, which is in Reno, Nevada. It's actually in Vegas. It's in Las Vegas. And that's a trade show, so it's a little bit different than a convention. But I did work a booth for R&R Games for just a portion of Toy Fest West. And then after Toy Fest West, we went directly to Gamma, which is another trade show, pretty big one. And I worked for R&R Games, and we did a booth at the Gamma trade show.
Nice.
So I'm so happy to be home. I was getting a little road weary. I like traveling. It's a lot of fun. It's neat to get to see different things and, meet new people and see all my industry friends and eat good food and on and on and on. But it's also, there's nothing quite like being home. So very happy to be back home. Happy to have gotten home. I know the airports were a little crazy with people trying to get where they needed to go. And so just thankful I'm home.
Yeah, awesome. I was getting ready for other videos that are coming in the future and getting those ready while getting just stuff around the house just situated before she got back. So, oh yeah.
So, COVID-19 is a thing.
Yeah.
And we do want to recognize that, but we also want to say that we're just going to continue to be smart. We're going to continue to wash our hands and not lick things.
Yep, not lick random poles or something like that. I don't know.
We want to be intelligent about this. We want you to be intelligent about it, but we also don't want people to be frightened. Yeah. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Be as intelligent as you can, and we'll get through it.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to do some top 10s of some games that you can play if you're stuck in the house.
Yep, if you are quarantined or if you're self-quarantined, we've got a list of some of our top solo and two-player games that we're going to talk about today. A couple of upcoming appearances that I was supposed to be able to make and now I will not be able to are Playthrough, which is a local convention to Raleigh, North Carolina. Playthrough Gaming Convention has been canceled, so I won't be making an appearance at that show. I also won't be going to Hoosier Con, and I was supposed to run I believe it was the Indiana State Championships there. So those two appearances have been canceled. We're looking for future appearances to probably be canceled as well, including possibly Origins. John Stacy is the president of Gamma, and he was discussing plans for Origins at Gamma. And he was saying that the board has not quite made a decision yet, but we should look for that information from them at April 14th or 15th. Around then, they're going to make a decision about what to do with Origins Game Fair. You may hear someone trying to break in. That's my kitty. We have shut him out of the room, and I knew that wasn't going to be a good idea, but we're going to try it so we can get the best audio possible. Yeah. So if he gets too disruptive, we'll just let him in.
Yeah, or if we start giggling, just know that's why we're giggling.
So, like I said, we want people to be safe, but we also don't want you to be too fearful. This is life sometimes, and we're gonna get through it the best we can. So, couple things that we have or have not added to the collection over the last few weeks or so, since the last time we recorded. We decided, kind of by not deciding, that we weren't going to back Dragoon. Yeah. I had a reminder set up, but while I was traveling, I wasn't monitoring my email as constantly as I usually do, and I missed the last call for it, so we actually missed out on the chance to back Dragoon. which is not that big of a deal. I think we have a lot of content for the game already.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I think we just need to explore what we have. When I figured out that we had missed the chance, I was a little bit disappointed, but I was actually kind of like, okay, well, that's fine. So that being the case meant that genuinely I felt like it was okay. You know, if I like had the realization that like it was fine that I missed out on it, then I think it's okay that we didn't back it.
Yeah. So what kind of games have you guys missed out on that maybe you actually didn't really, not to sound harsh, but care about? You missed it and you're like, actually, I'm okay with not spending, the 60, 80, sometimes hundreds of dollars you go ahead and, spend on these games. But yeah, just leave that in the comments.
Or tell us about one that you missed out on that you were actually really upset that you missed out on.
Which there is a company called the Game Steward that sometimes buys Kickstarter games and will have it. So, those people that go ahead and get the game and they just, sell it for more later. The Game Steward is a company that goes ahead and actually kickstarts games, and then they will sell them to people that missed out on it, which is really cool.
I actually got to see one of their booths. They were at one of the shows I was at, and
Tantrum Con.
Was it Tantrum Con?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. So they had a booth set up, and they were showing off some of the stuff that they had backed, and then were reselling. And I thought it was really interesting. They had backed at it seemed to me like either the mid or high levels.
Yeah.
So they really had like a good bit of product. For each thing, they had like the stretch goals and stuff like that, and it was neat. It definitely, like if it's something you're really disappointed that you missed out on, there are ways to get it if you're willing to pay the premium.
But I think their prices are somewhat reasonable. I haven't.
I mean, it
looked
makes
into,
sense. They have to, they have to carry it. They have to have it in their warehouse. They have to have it available.
Yeah.
If nobody wants it, then they're stuck with something that they can't really get rid of very easily. So I understand the additional cost.
Yeah.
So we did not back Dragoon, and honestly, in the end, I ended up not being really that disappointed about it. I still have a little bit of the FOMO involved with not having backed it. If we get through the content that we already have for Dragoon and wish we have more, I'll probably be more disappointed about not backing it later. But right now, I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I feel also there's going to be a time where we go through the content that we have, and maybe we pick it up later, and I guarantee that there will be, the Kickstarter exclusive being sold at a convention, or, Gen Con. They're at Gen Con, and they've got a really cool selection of games, even small games that they bring sometimes, and I know if we really want it, they'll be away.
Yeah, we can late pledge if we change our minds about this in the near future. And if we don't, Lay Waste is gaining more and more traction, and they have become more and more popular as time goes by. So their product has been a little bit easier to get. Initially, it was very, very, very difficult to get a hold of because they were just a very tiny company, and they were doing really, really small print runs. Plus, they didn't have wide recognition or anything like that. But as they've grown, so has their recognition and the ability to get their products. So
it's awesome.
Some games we have added to the collection. I brought these all home with me from my trips. One of them is the Tiny Towns Fortune expansion. And I only brought the lid with me because I ended up packing this down into my suitcase so that I didn't have to carry the whole box with me.
Yeah, you didn't have any checked baggage. It was all just carry-on.
I did not. Yeah, I had one small carry-on bag, and then like my satchel where I keep like my laptop and stuff like that. So I packed everything into one very small suitcase. While I was packing, I really wanted to keep the box so that we could use it to show off, but it just didn't end up working out. So I just kept just the lid so I could show you guys the lid. I think, so they used a new artist for the expansion. This is a different artist than they used for the base game. And the differences are subtle, but I think they're definitely there. This is a little bit more cutesy. There's more color in this. I don't know how I feel about that, if I feel one way or the other about it. We haven't actually gotten to play with this yet, so maybe when we see the new cards mixed in, it'll make more of an impact. But maybe because the differences are kind of subtle, maybe I won't even notice. But I was really excited to pick this up because this is one of the games that's on my list of things that I was excited to try this year. So Tiny Town's Fortune is
And,
now part of the collection.
Nice. And while we're going through these, comment below if you have ever had games that have second editions or expansions that are switched, and if you liked it or disliked it, or what your thoughts and opinions were on that.
I'm very excited about this one. This is Letter Jam. I've only played this once, and you have never played it, right?
Nope.
Yeah, so I've only played this once, but I had a really fantastic time with it. I kind of felt bad because I was playing with a group of players who are not enjoying it as much as I was, but I actually had a really, really good time with it. And I am excited to bring it home. I think Nick will probably like it, and I think that my mom will like it a lot too. I think that she'll like this one here probably. Maybe. We'll see. I've said before about Letter Jam, and again, not super experienced, I've only played the one time, but I felt like, having played through it, that it was more of a math game than a word game. You are spelling things in this game, but the sequencing of the letters that you're spelling with is more important than the words themselves, really. And it's all about trying to sort of crack this code. And to me, it felt like a very mathematical approach to a word game. So I really like this one. I'm excited to show it to my family, to my friends, and to get to play this one more frequently. So I'm super excited to bring this one home.
Nice. Yeah, Kevin from the Tantrum House, I was seeing him at Gen Con last year, and he was telling me about it, and I'm really excited to try it.
The next one that I brought home is the Rajas of the Ganges Goodie Box #1. This has 6 or 7 different expansions for Rajas of the Ganges, which is a dice drafting and worker placement game that I really like from R&R Games. So this was part of my compensation for working with them, was that I got to bring home the goodie box. And so I'm looking forward to this because some of the expansions that are in this box were previously very, very hard to get a hold of. So it's nice that they're all combined into one goodie box here.
Nice.
I also brought home this right here, which is a standalone case for Detective from Portal Games. So I had a print and play version of this, but they actually gave me this nice official packaging, and it's pretty and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to this. We haven't actually played this particular case yet, but we like Detective quite a bit, and we were talking about maybe doing a playthrough of Natural Causes here on the channel.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you'd like to see, let us know, and we will bring that out.
Awesome.
The last thing that I brought home with me is a print and play version of an upcoming game called Thrive. This is just, like I said, it's just like a print and play version that they made and packaged up to give away. And so this is a new game from Adam's Apple Games. Let me make sure that's correct. I believe it is. Yep, I believe that's correct. So this game right here is a abstract strategy game that was actually really interesting. And in the print and play version, you're not going to be able to tell, obviously, but in the prototype that they had out at Gamma, they had these pieces. They're little square pieces. And if you've ever seen a cribbage board, it reminded me very, very much of a cribbage board. Okay. If you had like a cribbage board that was the size of like a shortbread cookie, that's exactly what this was. And each piece had spots for little pegs. And what you would do on your turn is you would add a peg to one of your little cribbage boards. And that peg, in conjunction with the other pegs that were already on the piece, would dictate the movement that piece was able to make. So if there was a 4x4 grid of holes on the thing, and you put one right in the middle, I'm sorry, it started with one right in the middle, and you put one just above that, then you could move that piece one space forward. And then if you put one like 2 spaces diagonally, then you could move it 2 spaces diagonally. So it was a sort of a chess checkers type thing. If you land on a piece, then it's removed from the board, and it was your job to clear, I believe, all but one of your opponent's pieces from the board. So it was really pretty. It was still in prototype form, but they were talking about some of the final components that they were hoping to see in the game, and I think it's going to look really nice. I think it's going to be a very interesting abstract strategy game, and a challenging one. I am always particularly challenged by abstract strategy games. They're not one of the game styles that I do very well at. But I think that this one, for me, will be challenging. I don't know if that means that for abstract strategy fans it will be challenging or not, but I know it will be for me.
I'm excited to try to play it. Or I'm excited to play it.
Yeah,
so that's we get a chance.
Thrive.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that we've added isn't necessarily a game, but I'm very, very, very excited about that. I've added 5 new Jesus Loves Gamers t-shirts. These are some of my favorite pieces of clothing to wear out to conventions. I have one very, very, very well-loved Jesus Love Gamers t-shirts. And I have worn it to every show or convention that I've been at for like the last 2 or 3 years. So it's incredibly well loved. It was definitely time for a replacement. So I wasn't even sure that the company was making them anymore. And I went out and I tried to find them and I was able to find them. So I bought 5 of them so that I can continue to wear those. I do believe that Jesus loved gamers. I believe that Jesus loves you. I believe that Jesus loves just about everybody on this planet. And that is one subtle way for me to be able to get that message out there. I think no matter what else you believe, I think it's important to know that Jesus loves you. So that's one way that I can get that out there. And I'm so excited to have new shirts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Should we jump into our topic today?
Yes. Let's pause for a sec and get the screaming cat.
Yes. He is frustrated. Quiet now, okay? Okay. So, are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah, you're ready too?
So you can just
You're
start
ready
from talking
down there
about the topics.
Okay. Before we jump into our topics, we did have one more game we've added to the collection, and that is Bottom of the Ninth. And I believe this has a solo variant, right?
It does.
It does. So this is a good way for us to transition from what we've added to the collection to our topic today.
Oh yeah, and it's actually 1 to 2 players.
Oh well, there you go. So you can play 1 or 2 players.
And it takes 5 to 10 minutes to play.
Nice and quick.
Nice and quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, go ahead with your number 1.
So for my number 1 for solo is Friday. I like Friday. It's a game off the kind of Robinson Crusoe theme, and you're just trying to survive on an island. And I think it's a great, it's only for 1 player, and I really enjoy it. And it's complexity, and it's really hard to win. Like, really hard to win. So it's like, okay, you're just going to keep going at it.
So I have only played the solo, well, there's only the solo version of Friday. I've only played Friday 1 time. And typically I'm not real big on solo games, but I was like, everybody says this is so good. And I was waiting for something. I can't remember. I was waiting somewhere and I was like, okay, well, I could try this. And I got about halfway through the game and I was doing exceptionally well. Like I had checked like twice to make sure I was playing correctly because I was just doing very, very well. And everybody had said this is such a challenging game, So I was like, I might win. I might actually win. And then I got interrupted and I had to put it away and move on. And I've never gone back, and we'll never know now if I was going to win or not. So well, my I don't really have mine in any particular order, but one of my top 5 solo games is Space Park. So Space Park is one of my favorite games, period, ever. I really like Space Park. It's pretty simple. It's a little sort of pick up and deliver engine builder. It's very simple, but the solo variant is pretty challenging, and I've not done well historically playing the solo version, but it's still fun. And I like that it's challenging because the game itself, when you're playing with more than just yourself, when you're playing with multiple players, it honestly doesn't feel like there's a ton of real challenge. It's fun, I like it, but that doesn't really feel challenging. So to have the solo play up the challenge is nice for that one.
Nice. Let's move on to number 2. So my number 2 for solo games is Run, Fight, or Die. You're trying to trying to save so many people, I think it's 5, and then after you save 5 people, you have to just survive the rest of that round, and then you'll win the game.
And it's like a zombie apocalypse.
Apocalypse dice chucking game. And it's really cool. I really enjoy it. You can play I think it's like 1 to 4 players, and everyone gets their own board, and everyone's trying to survive. and you're supposed to get so many people to safety, and then you can, win, and then other people will try to do the same thing. I like it.
All right, my number 2 is Dimension, which is my favorite game in the double exposure tournament slate. So I host all these tournament games, and Dimension is my favorite one that I host. And so it's a puzzle game where you're stacking these spheres into this pyramid, and every round of the game new rules come out about how you can stack. So it'll be like you have to use exactly this number of this color, or these two colors have to touch each other if they're going to be in your puzzle, or you must use more of this color than that color. So there are all these different rules, and 6 new rules come out each round, and so you have 1 minute to build up your pyramid using as many of the marbles as you can without breaking any of the rules if possible. And there is a solo version of this as well. So I really like Dimension, and it's kind of a multiplayer, what's the terminology there? Like
simultaneous.
No, it's like a multiplayer solo game, right? Isn't that what they say when you're playing with other people, but you're really just
player interaction,
Yeah, there's very little player. There's like no player interaction, so it's like I think it's called a multiplayer solo, or something like that. I can't remember. Tell me if you remember in the comments. So it's kind of got that vibe to it anyway. When you're playing with other people, it doesn't really matter that they're there, other than that at the end, whoever has the most points wins. So the game itself, even when you're playing with other people, kind of feels like a solo playing thing anyway. And the solo version, if you are just playing by yourself, you have to get to a certain number of points in order to win the game. It would be pretty challenging. So that's my number 2, Dimension.
Awesome. So number 3. So my number 3 for this is Space Park. I enjoy Space Park. I also enjoy the complexity of the solo player, because it really, I think, puts the pressure on to really go at your own speed, but also to you that is that's pretty fast. You're not waiting on anybody else. So the second you're done, you'll resolve. You move on to your next turn, and so it's just constantly moving. So that's my number 2, Space Park. Number 3, Space Park.
My number 3 is the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective games. There are 3 at this point, I believe. I think the 3rd one just came out or was just announced, maybe. Or maybe that was the 4th. I don't remember. But there are several out at this point. And these are particularly neat for a solo experience, I think, because you can just kind of or just sort of explore at your own pace. There's no pressure that someone's waiting on you to get this finished. There's no you can just kind of set it up and take as long as you want to with it when you're playing by yourself. I think one of the downsides of playing this game solo is that there isn't anybody to sort of bounce your ideas off of. And when you're trying to sort of solve these cases, I think that can be helpful. But I think it is sort of a nice experience to just sort of meander through these cases on your own. So that is my number 3, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
All right. So number 4. So my number 4 is Slide Quest. I think it's nice to kind of switch it up to get a dexterity game into it, and it's fun with 2 players. It's fun with 3 and 4 players, but I think there's a real challenge at 1 player, and I think if people saw you playing at 1 player, you'd be like, what is he doing? Because what you're trying to do is get the knight from one end to the other, and you're trying to move these little levers to shift the board so he goes sliding into the other side, and you've got to dodge dynamite, you have to push in minions, you have to dodge minions, and I think it's really cool. It's got 20 levels, and once you get to the last level, it's just ridiculous.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
I really like Slide Quest, and I actually thought about putting it on my list because it does have a solo version as well. But the times that I've played Slide Quest with other people, I've had so much fun for that sort of no pressure social situation. I think that's one of the cool things about games is that you can interact with people socially, but it doesn't have to be completely focused on that social interaction. You have the game itself to sort of break up the intensity of the social interaction. And for me, I'm kind of an introverted person, so for me that's really nice. And I've had so much fun with the social experience of playing Slide Quest, that for me, I don't think I'd want to play that game by myself. I think you definitely could, and it would certainly be challenging, but I would so miss that social interaction that I normally try to avoid or don't really care for, but I really, really enjoy in that game. So I think I would really miss that if I played that as a solo game.
Okay. So what was your number 4?
My number 4 is Magic Maze. And for the exact opposite reason of what I just said. So in Magic Maze, there is a lot of interaction, and there's a lot of like, hey, it's your turn to do a thing, and so come on, hurry up, let's go. And there can be a lot of pressure from the other players to make sure that you're performing at your absolute best. And if you're playing by yourself, obviously that's not there. So I think that for me, Magic Maze would probably be more fun if I was playing it by myself than I was playing with other people. Almost for the exact opposite reasons of why I want to play Slide Quest with others.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to our number 5. So, last but not least, for number 5 for our solo list, mine is Bottom of the Ninth, the game we just showed. I'm learning it, getting ready to do a video on it. I think we actually might be doing, instead of a solo, we're going to do we haven't made it concrete yet, which if we're going to do a solo or 2-player, but I really like it. The solo is definitely a little more complex than the 2-player. There's some, the AI is in there, and there's a lot to keep track with the AI and make sure it's doing, the things that the game says it would do. But I really like it. It's very quick. It's 5 to 10 minutes. I watched, I'm doing an older game. I got to watch, Rodney do it when it came on Kickstarter, and that was pretty fun to watch. But yeah, I'm really excited to do it, and I think it's a nice little quick game if you're, if you want to get something just and be like, okay, I'm done, I'm good.
I like baseball quite a bit, so I'm excited to try this one. So
awesome. So what was your number 5?
My number 5 is the Van Ryder book series. Van Ryder books are a series of books that you can play. It's sort of like an adult choose-your-own-adventure. And I say adult, I mean kids can play too, but it's they're choose-your-own-adventure books that are sort of like on steroids. So they're a lot more. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more decisions, a lot more storyline, that kind of thing. I have played through, I'm gonna say like 2 halves of the stories. I started 2 different ones kind of at the same time, and I've played through about half of each one. There is a little bit of frustration here and there sometimes, because I'll make a choice and it'll bring me back to somewhere I've already been. And then I feel like, okay, maybe I got lost somewhere along the way. But it's interesting to see the way that the story unfolds and how your choices can influence how the story unfolds. And there are tons of these books out there. There are at least 10, I think, probably, right? And so there's one in basically every style or genre that you could look for at this point. There's a Western, there's a Eastern, it's like a Oriental style story. There's pirates, there's cowboys, there's
trying to find somebody in like a haunted house, or like trying to find the abducted one. Yeah, so lots of different styles, lots of different stories. And so yeah, that's my number 5, the Van Ryder books. Awesome. I should have mentioned, I guess I get honorable mention.
I was going to say, I have an honorable mention too.
I also have an honorable mention,
okay,
the Adventure Maze from Riverhill Games. Yes. Those are, I really like the mazes where you're going from one end to another, and then just having this, we've done a video on this, and just to have an entire book and stickers and get like a little bit of a legacy taste in the game. Yeah. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, those are neat little experiences. I don't necessarily think that they're a game quite. It's more like an activity, but it is a neat single player activity. My honorable mention is for The Castles of Mad King Ludwig. That is one of my top 10 favorite games, but I've never actually played the solo version. So I don't feel like I can confidently state that that's one of the best solo games out there, but I really like Castles of Mad King Ludwig when you're playing with other players. So I assume I would probably like it, maybe, if I was playing just by myself.
All right. Well, let's move on to our top 5 of 2-player games.
So if you're not in extreme quarantine and you can wrestle up at least one other player, here are some games that we think that you might like.
So, number 1. My first one on the list is King Domino Duel. I thought it was a really cool, nice, easy roll and write. And it was fun. It was puzzly, so you weren't just, it's quick, and also there's some complexity to it, and it's fast. Yeah.
I really like this one a lot, too, because it's a nice, sort of simple little roll and write game. I don't typically like a lot of roll and writes, but that one is really fun, and I do like that one a lot. So, nice job.
Awesome. What's your number 1?
My number 1, again, these are in no particular order, is... I kind of have 2 for number 1.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to say both of them.
Oh, okay.
The first one, number 1A, is Rail Pass, which is a cooperative pick up and deliver game that is very, very challenging. You have 10 minutes to collect all these different goods from different areas and move them to the area where they need to be delivered. And you're doing that with these little 3-dimensional trains. So you have to load up the train with the goods, and then you have to move the train along these tracks. But all of the players control parts of the track. So you have to get it as far as you can on your part of the track, and then you have to pass it off to one of your teammates, and they have to continue. It's very, very challenging, but I really, really like the game. I think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's my number 5A, or my number 1A. My number 1B is Spirits of the Wild, which is a 2-player game we've talked about before on the channel. It's a Mattel game, and I was kind of a snob about it the first time that I played. I was like, oh, it's a Mattel game. Well,
this cannot be good.
Yeah, exactly. It can't be that good. It's a Mattel game, but it's actually really, really good. It's sort of a drafting and placement game. You draft these little stones, and then you place them on your board in various ways to get points. So there's set collection, drafting, there's some sort of quasi-variable player powers. It plays pretty quickly. I'd say you could probably get a game done in about 20-25 minutes maybe. But it's really nicely produced, and it's a lot of fun. I really like Spirits of the Wild a lot, so that's my number 5B.
Number 1B.
Number 1B.
Yeah.
We totally went in a weird order this time.
Maybe. All right, so number 2. My number 2 is Seven Wonders Duel. It's all about the duels. I bet.
Seven Wonders Duel is one of my all-time favorite games. I didn't put it on this list because I feel like I talk about it a lot as it is. But I've always said...
guess what? We get to talk about it again.
If I was stranded on a desert island with one other person, I would want to have a copy of Seven Wonders Duel, because then we could just play it the whole time and it wouldn't be that bad. We'd be on the beach, we'd have a game.
Find a coconut or two.
Easy peasy.
Easy. Alright, so what was your number 2?
My number 2 is Unmatched. I don't have a ton. Yeah, I don't have a ton of experience with Unmatched. But it seems like the kind of thing where you can get a lot of varying experiences out of the box. If you have just the base game, it comes with 4 factions, right?
Yes.
4 factions, and you choose 2. You choose 2, so it's kind of like Smash Up. You smash up 2 factions, and then that's the thing that you control throughout the game. And it's got different things going on, but there's some area control, there's some combat. And I think that there's enough going on in Unmatched that I could get a lot of enjoyment out of the game for a while before I even had to add any of the expansion content.
Okay.
So it's kind of an odd choice for me because it's not one of my favorite games ever. I like it well enough, but I don't think I'd ever say that it was one of my favorite games. But for 2 players, I think that there's a lot of interesting things happening, and it could be entertaining and interesting for a sustained period of time.
Awesome.
So that's my number 2?
Yes.
Number 2.
Ooh.
Unmatched.
Number 3. So my number 3 is Splendor. Splendor is actually one of my top 10 favorite games ever. It's an older game, but I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy the back and forth with 2 players of collecting gems and trying to get nobles and trying to fulfill orders. And I just feel like it's big enough to feel like okay, I'm there's a complexity, and then small enough to where like that was nice. That wasn't like a brain burner. What about you?
My number. I'm a
3.
little tired, guys.
Just a smidge,
Sorry.
2 weeks of like running around.
My number 3 is a 1 or 2 player game called Intel. If you have the expansion for Intel, you can play it as a solo game. If you don't, then you play it as a 2-player game. Intel is an abstract strategy area control game that is a bit of a brain burner, actually. Not terribly, but there's definitely some multi-turn thinking. You have to think like, okay, well, if I do this on this turn, then on the next turn, they could do this. And then back to me, and I could do this. So you have to kind of think several turns in advance.
And you're sending them around because there's a place, okay, I'll place here, but then now I'm telling you to place somewhere else. But if I don't think about that place they're placing, then I might be giving them something good, and then see that's the rabbit hole you can kind of fly down.
So the basics of it is that you are placing these little control cubes onto colored hexagons, and each colored hexagon has a color around the edge that dictates what color it is. But inside the hexagon, it has spaces for each other color in the game. So if I place on the orange hexagon, if I place a cube in the purple space, then Nick has to place his next cube in the purple hexagon. So he looks at the purple hexagon and he thinks, okay, where can I put here? And then whatever he places dictates where I can place mine. And the whole point of it is that you get your cubes into certain positions on each hexagon to gain control over that hexagon. And then the first player who's able to do that with so many of the hexagons
with
wins
3
the
of
game.
them, and if they're all adjacent, and you have 3 that are controlled by you and they're adjacent, you win the game.
Yeah.
And so it's really like you're trying to like, okay, what's this tic-tac-toe on crack here? Like, oh my gosh.
Actually, that's a really good way to put it, tic-tac-toe on crack, because like I said, it's very much like, if I do this, then he can do that. And if he does that, then I have to do this. And then if I'm doing that, then so you really think several turns in advance if you can. And the more you have the ability to do that, the better you'll be at the game.
Yeah.
So that is my number whatever the heck we're on game.
That was number 3.
Number 3
Yes.
is Intel.
So number 4. So my number 4 is Tiny Towns. I really like, I like puzzly games a lot, and I feel like when I get to claim a material for myself, and then the next player claims material, and now I have to deal with that material. I like that a lot. I like where if something's just thrown in front of me, all right, do it, fix it, figure out how you can win when it's not always what you get to do. I kind of like that, and that's one of the biggest points of Tiny Towns that I really enjoy, and I can't wait to play the expansion that we just received.
I'm looking forward to the expansion too. There's a component in there. There are these little like treasure chests, and you can gain gold in this version of the game. And the treasure chests had like these little odd spaces where I think maybe we might punch that out, maybe, or like maybe fold it. I don't know exactly because we haven't looked into it very much, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the components of the expansion change up the base game. So
awesome. So what was your number 4?
My number 4 is Jaipur. Jaipur is I'm going to say a classic at this point, a classic card game for 2 players. It's a very simple game. It's set collection and sort of racing to turn in your goods before the other player does so that you can get a better benefit than them. So it's very simple. It's got a card row of 5 face-up cards, and on your turn you can select one or more of those cards, and you're basically trying to get sets of different types of goods in your hand and then turn those goods in for related rewards. And it's pretty simple. There's not a ton going on, but it's fun, it's quick, and there's enough interesting decisions to keep it exciting, I think.
Awesome.
So that is my number 4?
Yes.
Number 4, Jaipur.
So let's go on to number 5. Number 5, well, that was a good number 4, Sarah, and I'm going to have to copy it because that was my number 5, Jaipur. I really enjoy anytime we're out and we have, it's an app version too, or has an app version too. And so when we're out and about, we like playing the app version because it's really quick. We get back and forth. There's complexity.
It's like a play and pass. So I do something and then I can hand the phone to you, and you do something, you hand it back. So play and pass.
Yeah, and then I love playing just we have the first edition. We don't have the second edition.
We don't have the second edition, and initially I was a little disappointed because the second edition is supposed to be nicer. There's actually like a little golden coin in there, and some other stuff that made it sound like it was going to be a lot nicer than the first edition, which is what we have. But I actually got to see an open box copy of the second edition, and I think I'm fine with it. I think it's okay. The golden coin wasn't as high quality as I had imagined that it was, and there was only one. We've always said that when we were playing the game that we felt like if they made like a new edition of the game, it would be really nice if they had made poker chip style pieces instead of just like the cardboard chits.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping that when they came out with the second edition that all of the pieces would be elevated. Unfortunately, they didn't do that though. So I think I'm fine with having just the first edition.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my number 5. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is The Godfather from Come On Games. They took the movie and the book and they turned it into, well, I guess the franchise, and they turned it into a game, an area control game that is exceptional at 2 players. It's fine at like 3 and 4.
Yeah, it wasn't that great at 3 and 4, but 2, it's like, it was almost like enough to be like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, 2, it really sings. So The Godfather, Corleone's Empire is my number 5.
Awesome. So that was our top 5 of solo, and then just finished our top 5 of 2-player games. What are some of your top solo player games and 2-player games? Let us know in the comments below and how you're doing during this quarantine era, and making sure you know what games are you playing, what games that maybe we've missed or that are some of your favorites.
Stay safe, stay smart. If you need anything, please let us know.
Yep. All right, guys. Until next time, talk to you guys later. Bye.